So, you decided to play Kano. You screwed up. You looked at all the heroes that you had available to you and you said, I'll take the one with the least amount of health. You saw everybody else coming in with swords and hammers to fight with, and you decided, I'll bring a stick that I can't hit anybody with. Well, it's time to figure out how you're going to make amends. Hi friends, welcome back to Nearly Sane Games. I'm Neil, and this is the Armory Report. This week's Armory Event, Classic Constructed. And I decided to go and try to play Kano poorly. Let's take a look and see some pointers that I have for trying to navigate this deck. Alright, let's take a look at how this kind of will go down. Now this is Justin Graham's Wizard deck. I'll leave a link in the description below to the deck list and a video where he talks about it a little bit. But I'm going to kind of show you a little bit how I kind of try to manage the markup for this. Now, first off, my turn, what I want to make sure I do is start with the tunic counter, and I will put my action point on Kano, so I remember when I've used that and when I'm not. So, first off, I've got this Aether Flare, and this will do 3 damage and will, for as much damage as gets through, then all of my arcane damage will be added up on that. So I want to use that, but I also want to see what I have available for me on top of my deck. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pay to Kano. Kano is going to come in with Gaze of the Ages. Now I like this, and this will give me a good setup. So I'm going to begin by getting some pitch. I want to play my Aether Flare, but I want to also use my Crucible to pump it up. I like to pump up the spells that are going to pump up other spells, and keep that in mind. So we'll pay for the Crucible, and then we'll pay for the Aether Flare. So Aether Flare is going to come in for 4, and I like to mark that on my dice here so I know exactly how much damage we have on this attack. So I'm going to let this attack resolve. Actually, I don't need to let this attack resolve. I can present this attack, but now I've played a wizard card, and since Gaze of the Ages comes in at instant speed, I can play that, and let's see what we've got on top. Now we've got a Reverberate and a Blazing Aether, and I think I can make use of both of those. And so I want the Reverberate to come first, so I'll leave that on top. Gaze of Ages, since I've played another Wizard non-attack action card this turn, this comes back to my hand. So I can use this for pitch to Kano, and I get a Reverberate. Now, I want this to resolve first, and so I have to let that resolve. And let's say this resolves, and it does 2 damage. I want to mark that, and mark this card as this attack as having gone through. And I'll let that resolve. Then I can pay my 1 to play the Reverberate. Now, since this had 2 damage coming through, this will have an extra 2 damage, and this will be coming through for 5. And let's say that they block for 2 again, so we will have 3 damage get through. And I'll mark that with a die that says 3 damage got through, and put that sideways again, so I'm keeping track of that. So now, I'm doing this wrong already. I used my action point to play the Aether Flare, so I want to take that off and make sure I know that I don't have any more action points. And then I'm going to use Kano's ability one last time. We got the Blazing Aether, and that's going to come in, and this will attack for 5, because we've done 5 damage so far. And that's how I like to keep things a little bit organized and be able to see everything that's going on, especially while I'm trying to learn everything. I like to turn things sideways a little bit to say that the stuff, I've used this stuff this turn, and it's still very complicated. There's a lot of times that I will Kano twice to see what I have available. And if we have a pump up spell, we want to make sure that we get that out first, let that resolve, and before we add on any additional damage to that. And sometimes you can get a good amount of damage through. Like this is 8 damage between these, and then another 5, so 13 damage on this turn. All arcane, that's pretty good. I don't see these turns necessarily all the time, and so getting these set up is the problem. And you'll draw red cards, and you'll have to think about how you can use them on your turn and get them out of your hand. I think you want to kind of play red cards from your hand, but then you also want to get the advantage of using Kano at instant speed. But I think it's okay to just send over 3 points of damage on your turn, draw back up, and then see what you can do with your next hand. Yeah, so that's kind of the basics. Really remember that you have things that you're playing at instant speed, and so you can do a little bit of shenanigans with that, and stack them in interesting ways. But also pay attention that, like Aether Flare says, the next card that you play this turn. So make sure you get those in order. If you play Aether Flare at instant speed, after you've played Reverberate, Aether Flare will resolve first, but Reverberate will not get the bonus. You will have to wait until you get the next card that you play. So, very complicated. You're going to need a lot of practice. I still need a lot of practice. I'm not good with this deck, but I'm learning. And you're going to have to read all of your cards and know them very well to know what kind of damage you can get out of them. So let's see how I did with this deck. All right, let's take a look at how I did. Now, my first round was against Prism, which I believe is one of the worst matchups that Kano can have in this meta. And Prism was running 2 Arcane Barrier. I start out, I Kano, a red Zap, a red Snapback, and I throw an Aether Spindle from hand. So, not a bad first swing. I send over 10, I hit 4. He returns with a Herald of Erudition, which I really don't want to see. I'm able to block with the Skull Cap and a card from hand and block that out. He drops the aura that makes spectral shields when you pop auras. Not what I want to see. I swing back with a Sonic Boom, and I give it a +1 with my staff, and I hit Scour. Really did not want to see Scour that early. So I pop his 1 aura. That sends 1 arcane damage at him, which pops his spectral shield. I guess that's something. But he next turn, he sends another Herald of Erudition my way. And then Fractal replicates it. So I'm able to block out the first one. Can't block out the second one. He sends a bunch of damage at me, gets all kinds of go-agains, throws down another. I think he landed 3 auras on me. He had 1 spectral shield and 2 different auras. And just easily overwhelmed me. In the end, he was at 22. I was at 8. He took a swing at me. I Kano'd for everything that I could and blocked what he had. And then he followed it up with a Phantasmaclasm, and I was very, very dead. So, 22-8, not a real good start. My round 2 was against Bravo. He was on 3 Arcane Barrier. So I brought in my Enchanting Melodies, my Remembrances, looking for a long game. I don't know what a long game is in Kano. I'm still starting out, so just trying to figure this out. Uh, I get to go first, and I have an enchanting melody that I can play, so I definitely want to get that out. He sends over on his first turn a Crush Confidence for 5. I'm like, well, Enchanting Melody is going to eat 4 of that. And then he adds a Pummel on top. And so I Kano. And on top is the other Enchanting Melody. All right, I'll play that too. So that blocked for 8 and blocked that out. I He sent over he heaved a Pulverize, so that was exciting. And I was able to block for 4 on that. I took 10. Um, he sent over a Dominating Crippling Crush. I was able to use Sigil of Parapets, and after I played that, I played the Gaze of Ages. Gaze of Ages doesn't trigger. I'm just looking to boost up my sigil. And so I opt to, and I get a Blazing Ether on top. That's not what I want to play, but it costs 0, and I need to pump up my defense more. So I play a Blazing Ether for 0. Zip! And I'm able to block 8 of that. No cards in hand, so your crush does not get me. I did have a decent turn where I was able to Aether Flare into a Reverberate into a Snapback. That brought him down to 10, but I was already at 1. I drew a hand that had no blue, and he sent over Command and Conquer. So I decided to block for 6. Of course, he had the blue Pummel on top. I decided to Kano for an Aether Flare I can't play because I don't have any more resources. So, nothing. 10 to 1. 10. I was much happier with that match. There is a world where I drew a blue hand and was able to burn him out when he presented the Command and Conquer, or when he presented the Pummel. I don't know. But 10 is a reasonable number, and I felt like that match was almost on the close side. He did have 3 Arcane Barrier, though, so doubtful my skill set could have burned him out in that. But if I got lucky, maybe that could have happened. Round 3 was against Katsu. 0 Arcane Barrier. Here's my chance. I'm going to get him. And I start out with a Sonic Boom and roll into a blue Snapback. 1 more point. All right, so I burn him down. I also pumped up the Sonic Boom with my Crucible, so that's a mighty 5 points of damage. I'm pushing through. So I tried to block mask triggers. I really didn't want him to draw. I don't need him to throw an absurd amount of damage. But I let a lot of damage come through. I was looking for opportunities, which is silly because he had no Arcane Barrier. It was totally up to me to just get the right hands to burn him out. And I don't. I'm drawing reds and yellows, and I will Kano and get a blue off the top, and it just did not get the damage to come through. I think if I'm pulling the red hands, I really need to use those hands to block, and because on top is probably going to be a bunch of blues, so block with the reds and just wait it out, get to the next turn, and get those blues in hand, so I can really pour on the damage. and save my life totals where I can. In the end, I was 23 to 1. Blech. So, Kano's hard. Kano is complicated, and um, I did have some decent damage turns, and there were times that I could find the snapbacks and uh, get the sonic booms going and throw in 15 points of damage. I was not using my equipment very well. I think I used the boots once, um, and I don't think I ever used metacarpus nodes, and I should have. I should have been looking for opportunities to really pump up my damage, and I don't know where those opportunities are yet. And it's difficult to really understand all the moving parts. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of things happening at instant speed. Um, and remembering that you can do things at instant speed. I did play a Tome of Fandel at instant speed, which is weird. Um, but yeah, just looking for all those opportunities. I still want to keep working on Kano. I think that the fact that I still harp on the fact that Kano won the Italian Nationals when Breyer was at full power. There is power in this deck. I need to figure out how to use it, and it's a puzzle. It's a complicated puzzle, and it's not going to be easy. But I'm willing to keep trying and keep putting reps in to try to learn how to play the deck, because that is really what you need to do. Is you need to figure out exactly what Kano wants to do. Then you know whether or not you're doing it or not. And that sounds a little silly, but that's really what you need to do. Is you need to understand what a good hand in Kano looks like, what kind of benefits that can do for you. And I think the real challenge is deciding, do I play this on my turn or do I play this on my opponent's turn? And figuring that dynamic out is, I think, one of the most complicated things with Kano. It's like, am I going to take a 2-card hand and just throw this one thing at him? Or am I going to try to pull something off the top and make it better? If I am pulling things off the top, do I have 2 resources to maybe play that if it's a 2-cost card? If it is a 2-cost card, is that going to be useful? Am I going to get an Aether Flare and have nothing else in hand to go along with it? And understanding what I can pull and what I can do with it once I do pull it, all of that stuff is very important. And it's just going to take time to really understand all of the cards in the deck, what I can expect, and how that's going to benefit me or not. And it's very complicated. But I think over time, working with the deck and replaying the deck, you're going to find that information out. And I know that there's several YouTubers that are going to have upcoming deck techs on different Kano decks. I believe that DM Armada is working on editing a deck from the person I stole this deck from. Arc is going to be doing another informational video on how to play Kano. And I think all those resources are going to be useful, but a lot of it is going to be just playing the deck and getting to understand what you're going to have. So that's what we have. And next week we'll be doing Blitz. I do have my Data Doll deck. Probably going to lose some more, but Data Doll does some really wacky things. I'll try to do a deck tech for that, and we'll see how that does. I think my prediction for next week is I go. I'm going to say 2-1. I'd be optimistic, but I think that Data Dial can do some very neat things, but I don't think necessarily it's going to, say, beat a Kasai. But we'll see. We'll see how it does. We'll see how we do with three card hands. Until next time, I'm Neil, and this has been the Armory Report.